All right, thank you so much. All the chefs are coming out. We're going to have a question period, so if anyone had any questions, we're going to be collecting them, we're going to be asking them, so I'm going to invite all the chefs to come back on. Just another note, I know we're supposed to have Owen Lightly of Butter on the Endive Catering, and he was supposed to be speaking tonight as part of our 6-course discourse, but unfortunately he's fighting cancer right now, so we're sending him strength and positive thoughts. So I know his partner Naomi is also here. I'm not sure where she is. Naomi, where are you? Oh, there she is. Hi. Okay, so can we get maybe the chairs to come out and we'll invite the chefs back on? Thank you.
I'll entertain you guys while these guys are setting up. Do you want to listen to a Bollywood song? This is how it goes. Pump up the jam, pump it up. So when I came to Banff, the first song I ever heard was this one, the Pump Up the Jam, Pump It Up. And the other one was that stroking through the east and stroking through the west. And I'd never really had heard English songs. It was just the rhythm. So I used to think like stroking means like, what do you mean stroking? Like for me, stroking in India was like you're fucking somebody. So I didn't quite understand it. So I used to dance by myself on the Banff Springs Hotel floor, hammered. And then later on, I sang it to my kids, and they were like, oh my God.
Thanks, Vikram. I knew I invited you for a good reason. All right, I guess Vikram will go first. Vikram, did you take stages at your restaurant? Do you take stages at your restaurant?
No, because I don't like free labor. No, I don't do stages at the restaurant, and I'll tell you why. My kitchen staff is mostly Indian women that work in the kitchen. And this was something when I had first opened the restaurant up, it came about that my Indian girls said to me, you know what, Vikram, we don't like to be touched. And this is like a little shrink area for us. Like we can talk about our husbands and our mother-in-laws and bitch about them all the time. So just don't bring any guys in. And I was like, okay. So that just worked out. And from a marketing point of view, it looked beautiful to have like 8 Indian women cooking Indian food there. It really was never a plan that way. I was the only guy that's allowed in there. So no stages, because they have a difficult time communicating. Like even if you went and got the chicken curry, you would have asked them, what are you giving them? They'll be like, how stupid are you? This is chicken curry. Can you not taste it? So from their point of view, it's just like so simple. It's like because they do it all the time. Whereas for somebody else, it's like, oh my God, it's a big deal. So at My Shanti, the new restaurant that we are going to open up in South Surrey, I am planning on taking some stages and having people come in because this is one of the goals to educate people through the spices and to talk about it. And as Tina had said earlier, she said, I would just come for one day and learn how to cook. So at the new place we will be. For the first 20 years, I have not. But next 25 years, I think I will be.
Somebody asked what a stage. I heard somebody, just to explain a stage, is to come spend the day in a kitchen. So, for example, at the Pear Tree, we have no touching either, but just you apply, we see your qualifications, you come in, it's like applying for a job, you apply, and you get an opportunity to come spend a day, a week, depending on what the schedule is, and you're essentially, you're free labor. Yeah. I like free labor, so I don't know what you don't like, but that's what a stage is. It comes in, and then there's certain stage jobs, and it's a huge part of getting exposure. So many students now go to culinary school, and they've never worked in a restaurant. They've never spent Saturday night, yet they signed up and paid tuition. It blows me away. So these ones then come and get some exposure to it and learn maybe what kind of restaurant they want to apply to.
I have stage at your place.
And you begged.
All right, the next question is for Tina. What are some of your favorite restaurants in the city? Is there a dish you want to master that you haven't yet?
Who are my sponsors tonight? Favorite restaurant in the city, and is there a dish that I want to master from one of these restaurants?
Yes, is there a dish you want to master that you haven't yet?
I want to learn what Hamid is doing. Everything Hamid's doing is the new, it's the future. I mean, things that he's doing. We're all French trained and classically trained, but some of us just stayed there, really. And within this panel, it was such an honor to see all the diverse chefs, the backgrounds and everything. And if Hamid's cooking somewhere, I think that's where I'd like to go. And master all those chemicals. I'm so bad at chemicals and math, but I'm sure he'll show me a way. Those noodles.
Thank you very much, Tina.
All right, the next question is for Scott. Chef Yeager, what's your favorite pear at the moment and why? What's your stance on GMO?
Oh, what's my stance on GMO? Okay, for favorite pear, it's always been Bartlett. Nothing has ever come close. I love all pears, obviously, much more than apples. No apples, all pears, all the time. My head server was just driving in a car and saw a sticker, and I know he's getting me the T-shirt made. It's coming right after the "got to eat it before you tweet it," but that says it has a. I can't exactly explain the logo, but it basically says "Grow a Pear," and it was on the back of a huge Ford truck. So I think that's going to be my new logo. Obviously, it's pretty good, huh? I might change that whole pear tree thing to be just "Grow a Pear." You know, where do I stand on GMOs? I'm going to pass it to you in a second, but you know, we're all against it. We're aware it exists. We're aware of its encroachment on what we already consume. I mean, you know, our goal is to, you know, or my goal, my view, my hope is that we have some farmers that will, you know, maintain some seeds and some heritage type product and go back to that grassroots. You know, can we ever eliminate GMOs from our world? You know, I don't know if that's a possibility, but, you know, I'd like to source all my product from people that are trying.
Yo. For Hamid, what is the most important thing you would like your students at VCC to take away from your classes?
Well, is this working? Yes. The most important thing that I actually tell them, if one thing you're going to learn from me before you leave, to organize yourself and stay organized. I mean, it's very important for them to know how to set up a cutting board, how to have a pen and paper, take direction from the chef, read the recipe properly. And that's all they need to know till they leave. Because once they go out there, and if they're lucky enough to work with one of these chefs right here, and they will teach them how to cook. But for them to be successful, they need to be organized.
Thank you. For Julian Bond, how can you avoid Teflon? It comes in many disguises.
Okay, cooking lesson. Here we go. So before you cook anything, you know, stainless steel, cast iron, the only two elements you need in your kitchen at home. And most of you, when you are cooking at home, let's say you've got this most beautiful stainless steel pan you paid $300 for, you got it at a Christmas pan because it was one right at eye level. Next time you go to a cooking store, look down to the floor and you'll find black steel pan. It'll cost you $8 and will last you for 25 years plus. And what you do is, let's say we're cooking a piece of fish. Most of you will take your pan, and you'll put it on your element of electricity or gas, and you'll put your oil in and wait for the oil to get hot and start cooking fish, right? Yeah. Wrong. So problem number one is, most people cook wet fish, and if you cook anything wet in oil, it's going to stick. Problem number two is, really quickly, if you put a piece of fish in hot oil, the oil is hot, but the pan is cold. Think about direct heat. As it's touching the bottom of the pan, it's touching the oil, and the viscosity of the oil is very thin. The oil heats up, but the pan's still cold. So you put the fish in, it cools down the oil, but the pan's cold and your food sticks. So as in any of these restaurants here, when you're cooking, when Scott's on the line on Saturday night, he's got a stack of pans that are under heat getting hot. So you put the pan on the heat, you get your pan hot first. Put your oil in, the oil starts to get hot and smoke almost straight away. Put your fish in, the oil cools down, but because the pan's hot, the oil heats back up again, that viscosity is there, and your food will never stick in your pan ever again.
See? All that science lesson, you'll be cooking noodles soon. You'll be cooking gelatin noodles.
All right, another question is for John Bishop. After almost 30 years, how does Bishop's continue to delight its patrons and gain new ones?
Sorry. Yeah, it's a very good question. I think I don't think of the last 30 years in a sort of reputation-wise. We work night to night, customer to customer, as if we were building our reputation. And it's really an extension. So many times I heard the word passion tonight. It's passion of not only cooking the food, perhaps in some cases for people that you may never meet, especially if the kitchen's not an open kitchen. So it's a very generous act. The whole art of cooking, buying it as fresh as possible, cooking it in the most sensitive, delicate way, and serving it to people that you may meet and eventually get to know as I do. My life is a complete circle most days because I'm in the kitchen and then I'm out front meeting the people and not soliciting compliments or anything like that, but it's the act of giving that I think we all share. Whether customers necessarily appreciate it all the time, I don't know. I think they do. So it's the circle, yeah.
A question for Vikram Vij. What's your favorite cardamom for cooking?
What's the what?
What's your favorite cardamom for cooking?
Oh, what's my favorite cardamom? So there are two kinds of cardamoms. One is a black cardamom, which is called like the workhorse. So what Cabernet Franc does to a Bordeaux blend, gives that really rich, inky flavor. A black cardamom does the job of giving that really huge bite and smokiness to it. The green cardamom is the cardamom that you use for desserts only. It's very aromatic. But if you have a shitload of money that you want to just flush it down the toilet, you should use green cardamom for regular cooking because you think that that's going to be really better for you. But it actually, in the garam masala, which is the blend of the 5 spices, you only use black cardamom in the same way as you would use Cab Franc in a Bordeaux blend, because it gives that strength, that smokiness to it. I mean, if you want to use, Cab Franc as a single varietal, it's a little bit tough to make. The skin is a little bit unique. And that smokiness that you expect. I mean, again, if you actually look at Bordeaux or you look at winemaking techniques, they always blended their grapes because there was no one grape that exactly did. This new world way of thinking that I'm having a Merlot or a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Sauvignon Blanc is a new world way. The old world way was you knew the producer. You just said, okay, so-and-so is a winemaker of this winery. I trust him or her to do a fantastic job of the wines. You bought the wines not because they were a Merlot or a Cab Franc. You bought the wines because this came from this house, or this house produced it. In Indian cooking, it's kind of the same way. You don't say, oh, I'm going to only cook with cumin or cloves or cinnamon or ginger or garlic. You cook saying, this guy makes a delicious curry, or this woman makes a delicious curry. So at the end, you know, the old world, there's a reason why that old world did a fantastic job of it. So there's no one way to cook the cardamom. Cardamom is used in thousands of ways. One of the things I would always say is use the black cardamom for regular cooking and use the green cardamom for your aromatic cooking.
Thank you. For Jillian, how have the student demographics changed in the years that you've been teaching?
You know, it's a student may come to me tomorrow and say, oh, I watched on the Food Network this, or I watched on the Food Network that, or I saw Vikram judging this and judging that. And it's always about wine, isn't it? And I wouldn't accept that student. And it's been harder and harder. Trends come and go. And even in the school right now, for example, 2 years ago, culinary would be full with a waiting list, and pastry would be, 6, 7 students to a class. For the last year, pastry is full now till you can't get until next summertime, and culinary is slowing down. So trends and what's happening is very important, but it doesn't matter to me. When anybody comes to cooking school, we start at ground zero. And if somebody comes and says, oh, I want to be the next Food Network chef, or I want to write a book, I won't accept them. Period. It's about going back to passion and wanting to cook for the right reasons. And we explain how hard this industry is. And you'll never be a famous chef. You'll never be on TV. But if you love to cook and you're passionate about cooking, then we'll take students, whether it's from high school, whether you're changing your career and you've always wanted to be a cook. And we get many, many students coming through who have been a scientist till they're 35, or worked in a mill, or a vetted, we have a vet right now who's looked after dogs and cats, but ultimately their heart is for cooking. And people who are even retired. My oldest student was 66, and he believes you don't retire at 65. That's when you start your life. And he has some amazing dinner parties. So they're all over the map.
Can I just say something to this? I apologize, but I need to say this. You go to school to become a doctor, a lawyer, a chef, an engineer, but you don't go to school to become a celebrity. That's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. Why would you be called celebrity? It's not something that you've earned. You're not a celebrity. You can't be. So when Julian says, oh, this chef says, oh, I want to be so-and-so, there's a difference between saying, I want to be like him because he or she cooks a great meal. But when somebody says you want to be a celebrity and like this, really, there is nothing called a celebrity. There is no designation as celebrity. It's all absolutely wrong. And I hate it when Food Network calls anybody. Just call somebody a chef or a great cook. All of us sitting here on the panel, we are all equal at the end of the day. That's all that matters.
Thank you. This question is for Vij, Scott, and John. After an 80, 90, 100-hour week and a crazy night in the restaurant, how do you keep your cooks motivated?
Beer. Yeah, beer. And you hold it at long distance.
Beer.
The Welsh guy says. I think you need a balance. There's no question working for me, I think, is a bit of a grind. We're not a very big restaurant, but I expect a lot of my staff. They work a hard day. My guys all start their day at 11. If they're You know, if the day goes well, they're done by about 11:30. So that's 12 and a half hours a day. And I don't do anywhere near that. They do, but they, you know, you need a balance. For me, a big transition, we have, I call it 2 restaurants. It's the same restaurant, but we had the opportunity to expand 8 years ago. And we expanded, we took on more space, we pay more rent, blah, blah, blah. A better kitchen, better life. The biggest transition in my world was we could sit down for family meal. In the old restaurant, I had 6 burners, 1 oven, almost the same amount of staff, but we could never sit down and have staff meal. There wasn't enough kitchen space, lunch and dinner. I never made the commitment to make a proper staff meal. Sandwiches, we did some half-ass stuff. And now, every day, 4 o'clock, I don't care how busy you are, I don't care what you do, 4 o'clock, everybody in my team sits down. The dining room, the cooks, we all sit at the same table, we have a meal. You have a meal at 4 o'clock, you reset, and then you do service. And I don't know if that's a motivation answer, but there's no question on lifestyle and how you feel through your day, and at the end of the day, if you take that out, it's a whole different game.
So my women in the kitchen are obviously A, vegetarians, and B, they don't drink beer. So how do you motivate them? You motivate them by saying, eat whatever you want. Make yourself, at the end of the meal, whatever you want. Because at the end of the day, I've realized the fact that I can stay here on a Monday night and gallivant with you guys and have a conversation and have fun is because I have a crew of 80 women in the kitchen that are going to be roasting the spices, grinding the spices, cutting the onions and the ginger and the garlic. That is my backbone. The reason why I can be here is because my backbone is taking care of me. My spine is taking care of me. So I got to take care of that spine, which means I just say, go ahead, order whatever you want, eat whatever you want. There's no food cost, none of that stuff. The front of the house, how do I motivate? At the end of the day, they can order whatever they want from the menu and have a glass of wine. Because things that happened to us when we were working as chefs or front of the house, I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to say, what's the worst thing you can happen? You're gonna eat lamb popsicles every day? Perfect. You're gonna look like me by the time you're finished. You don't want to. There's nothing low fat about this guy. You're gonna just enjoy yourself. So, and what has actually happened is the respect for it. So let them have a glass of wine. Who cares? At the end of the day, they worked all hard, making sure that the people were provided. And it really mattered to me that we didn't get nitpicky about it. So that was one of the motivational factors. In 18 years, we have never lost a kitchen staff member because they were unhappy with the way I was handling them or if anybody else was. We've lost them because, somebody got pregnant or moving on and stuff like that. Because we treat them like a family. At the end of the day, we all treat them like family. Anybody sitting right here can say, at the end of the day, we are a family. And that's how you motivate them, is by involving them, having them. Yes, you have to work hard at it. But, what's the worst thing we can do? What, somebody's chicken is overcooked? Oh my God, in life, if your chicken is overcooked and that's a really big problem in your life, you should never go to India.
You just told me I was supposed to go to India at least once in my life.
Yeah, but if chicken is overcooked for you and that's a little bit of a issue for you, you should never go. Because there's, oh my God, you go to India and you're like, holy fuck, how does this country survive?
Thank you. Okay, another question is for Julian, Tina, and Hamid. What was the best advice that a mentor gave you, and do you pass the same advice on to people you teach or you mentor?
For me, one of the things that I always tell my my cooks, my students, and all that. It's a line from Dave Ryan. He would always say is that food doesn't tell you what to do, you tell the food what to do. And that kind of sounds, weird. That's because, every time you're trying to cook something, you don't get it, you don't pull it off. It's not as tasty as you had so-and-so's dish. Don't ever give up. If you make it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, you eventually will get it.
Because you're long-winded, right? I think it's the same thing I said, is try to do it better every day. It's the same thing. Mashed potatoes, right? For me, entremetier station. You gotta do it. Just try to do it better every day. And this was one of my mentors. He worked for Robuchon, and immediately mashed potatoes, right? He taught me that. So try to do it better every day, no matter what, right? Yeah, it's good advice.
Don't try and hide anything. Admit your mistakes. Simple as that. If you burn a carrot and you turn the carrot over so the burn bit's on the bottom, and you try and sneak it past the pass, the chef will bust your ass. Or if you carry the plate because it's like, hot, it's hot, but it's actually freezing cold and you know it's cold, the chef will catch you and bust your ass. So admit your mistakes and life's a lot easier.
And then a question for everybody. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing the Vancouver restaurant today?
There's so many, and to the general public, they're not really seen as industry connected. But one of the things we face on 4th Avenue is this terrible parking till 10 o'clock. It only affects a restaurant that somewhere out for 2-hour dinner. If you're going in to buy aspirins or a Thai even, you're only in there for half an hour at most. So that's one of the big things in the city. The other thing, of course, has been the economy that we've battled through in the fine dining segment anyway, since 2008 really, or since 9/11 actually. But that looks like it's turning around. The most amazing thing for me, a few years ago, we were, as an industry, talking collectively about how hard it was to try to attract people to the industry. But it seems, for whatever reason, and I think some of my colleagues have experienced the same thing, there's a lot of people coming into the industry now with passion. It's not for money, for sure. It's not for the hours. But I've got some amazing people that I work alongside every day, and I know these guys do too. And the industry is so different to what it was years ago. But things like parking, taxation. We had that HST, do you remember? And fought it, even though my accountant would prefer to have had it. The cost of doing business has increased because we're using more and finer ingredients. That's not to say caviar is on every plate or anything. It's just we're paying the producer more than we ever probably did, and deservedly so, because it's wonderful stuff. I just love it, even despite all of those things, but that damn parking just gets me. And I wouldn't mind, but the Mayor Gregor Robinson cycled up the other day for dinner, and I still can't bring it up with him.
Parking's easier in Burnaby, just so you know. I don't need you out there, it's okay, but I'm just...
More beer.
More beer, yeah. I think Vancouver has a great food scene. I think the restaurants are almost too good. It's funny how you talk about price and taxation. I was just on vacation 2 weeks ago and went to Portland. And everybody builds this city up for me. I was at Vikram's house just before Christmas for Vikram's birthday. Miro had a surprise party for 6-8 of us there for dinner. It was great. And they're telling me all these great things. I've never been to Portland. It's so great. It's so great. And it is extremely vibrant, great food scene in Portland. Undeniable. And we went to about 6 restaurants. You know, my wife loves that because I like to do 2 in a day, and she's not super keen, but I am. But so we go and we eat and eat and eat and eat, and we try everything. And I will admit, the passion and the energy was awesome. All the same pricing, no different than mine. Maybe no tablecloth, no flowers, no crystal, no china. Okay, those things weren't there, but they're still paying the same price. Beautiful passion, great energy. But what a different value compared to what you get in Vancouver, compared to the selection and variety that we have in Vancouver. So I guess for me, the biggest challenge for Vancouver is really realizing how good we kind of have it. You know, when we look at our ethnic categories and, you know, the variety we have. If you want to talk about sitting down and having a 3-hour meal and spending 3 hours in a restaurant, you know, and if you want to break it down a little bit more, like, okay, what does it cost you to see your lawyer for 3 hours, your accountant for 3 hours, your doctor? There's a price per hour of what it takes. I guarantee you Vancouver is the best value out there to spend 3 hours sitting in a chair, dining, being served on, being taken care of. And, you know, does Vancouver clientele really know that? It's funny, in Portland, very vibrant bumping every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 seatings in all the restaurants we went to. Great passion, but nowhere near the technique or quality that I could name off 30 restaurants in Vancouver.
I think the biggest challenge or an issue is pride. You know, the French never got where they did, or the Italians never did, because the French were so arrogant. They said, I'm from Bordeaux, I'm not drinking Burgundy. I'm from Burgundy, I'm not drinking Côte de Rhône. Why? Because they said, we have delicious wines that grow within our own regions. Why would I drink Burgundy? Why would I drink Bordeaux if I'm not from here? We as British Columbians and as Canadians need to be proud of the fact that we produce great wines in Okanagan, we have great produce that comes from Fraser Valley, and we have an ocean that produces great sustainable seafood. We need to be proud of that. Once we are proud of ourselves, everybody else will be proud of ourselves. If we don't take care of our own selves by saying, why do I need a frozen fish that's flown in from India just because I'm in an Indian restaurant when we have delicious halibut or spot prawns or any other kind of fish that's available here? If we as British Columbians are not proud of our own selves, nobody else will be proud of it. I think the more important part is, rather than looking for cheap food, we should look for delicious food that's cooked with a lot of love and passion. And I find that sometimes can be an issue. Other than that, I think I totally agree with Scott. Yeah, why the chefs that are here have actually honed their skills in best of the hotels or restaurants. They've come back home, and now they're producing beautiful food. And that's all that matters. It is not San Francisco. Why must I compare myself to San Francisco? Why must I compare myself to Seattle or Portland or New York? Bloody, the carrot that grows in New York is different than the carrot that grows here. We should enjoy what we have here and be proud of ourselves. Only then we can portray ourselves and saying, you know what, screw you all, we're doing a great job here. Be happy.
I'm going after everywhere, Chrome. I think one of the challenges that most of the restaurants in Vancouver are having, if you look at our dining scene 10 to 15 years ago, how much has changed. How much more fine dining restaurant we had, and compared to now, as Chef Yeager is talking about Portland, about the value that we give here compared to you getting different cities. Yeah, we're very lucky. We have a foodie city. We have amazing restaurants here. Every time I leave Vancouver and go to different parts of the world, I come back with a smile on my face. But I think one of the challenges most of the restaurants have, not some of them, is staying current. not current in food trends and things like that. They're current to notice what the clientele, Vancouver clientele wants. I think that changes through the years. That's all I can see.
I think one of the big challenges that Vancouver has is understanding social media. And it's true. Sorry. And, well, an exception to the rule. Well, no, here's the thing. It's, everyone's a critic. Absolutely everybody. And we really don't understand how powerful it is when someone can come into someone's restaurant and, you know, everybody's got a camera on food these days. Absolutely everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's beautiful and it's fantastic. But we have to learn, okay, here's my vision. We only talk good about restaurants. If you talk bad about a restaurant because the restaurant was shitty and it was crap, the restaurant will go away all by itself. If you celebrate the restaurants that are excellent and fantastic and talk about the good in every restaurant, those restaurants will shine and be successful. So we don't have to walk in there and talk about a dish and trash a dish and, you know, just because it's not to your taste or it wasn't the correct salt or seasoning, when, and I apologize for saying this, I really do, I don't want to end this whole panel list, but, you know, when you're not responsible, you don't have an editor, and it's some comments can be harsh, and, you know, tear people's day apart when they put 14 hours into a day and someone's come in and taken a photograph and just torn it all apart. But so I have a philosophy that if we talk good about restaurants, we talk about the positives of a night, a restaurant will be successful and be around for many years to come. And the restaurants where you had a bad experience or it was just terrible or crappy, don't talk about it, and those restaurants will go away and die. That's my thing. Sorry. Do bad movies go?
Do bad movies go away?
No, here's the feel, right? And you're brilliant at this. You know, you respect the restaurant, you respect the work, you respect the heart that goes into it. And it's not, I'm not attacking bloggers here. I'm attacking everyone with a cell phone camera and an iPhone, and, you know, you're destroying somebody's work that, you know, I see it from a student point of view. So, you know, I see students in tears from a TripAdvisor comment where the guy's like, yeah, I just ate lobster and crab and it was freaking awesome. But it was crap, you know? It was like, it was warm and it could have been hotter and this could have been this. And he picked, it's 25 things that was bad about the meal, and then the only thing he raved about, he forgot about the 25 things he loved about a meal. And just be fair is what I'm trying to say. That's all, sorry.
Just to connect to Julian, Annette and I dine in Vancouver. We love this city. When we go travel anywhere else, when we come back, we're so proud to be back home here with the things we have, spot prawns, the best fish and chips, people like this panel. We never complain about service. I think that we need to do something about service. I think Vancouver, I don't even remember the question, but I think it's, there could be, Mr. Bishop, you will agree, let's go back to the service, how it used to be. I'm just gonna say that, because it's a, you know, it's another bottle of wine. We have to open it up. We have to discuss this. But in our city, you can get, you know where you get good service. So Annette and I, we frequent those places. But to try new places and just, everything was good. We don't tweet about it. We don't talk about it. Sometimes Annette will put something out and just say, we want to help you confidentially. Other than that, I think, let's go back to passion. Everybody's talking about passion. That's great. What the city is also needing, which I find when I consult, is I need cooks. Where are all the cooks? Yes, you're all passionate, but do you have a desire to continue on with this passion? You can be passionate. That's fantastic. And, that's great, chef. Like, that's the motivation behind cooking. But do you have a desire to do this day in and day out as a young cook? So I'll find many cooks in many establishments. I've been in this station for a month. Oh, my God, a month. I've been in this station for a month. And, you hear this as a consultant, and you try to inspire them. And obviously, I'm not the chef, so I take them back, slap them a bit. No. And just try to inspire them and try to tell them my stories or other people's stories. Tonight, I'll come back with so many stories and share that with them. So, awesome. Let's have passion, but let's have a desire to continue to do that passion day in and day out as young cooks. So, I think we need that. Where are the cooks? Where are all the cooks? So we need cooks everywhere, I think. I'm always looking. And when you find them, like Scott, like that's amazing to just keep them. And the ladies, the passionate students. But let's teach them the desire to continue on with that too.
Thank you. And on that note, that concludes the first ever 6-course discourse. So how did you guys enjoy it? Yeah? You guys want to see it next year? Awesome. Thank you so much for the chefs, to the restaurants, the wineries, sponsors, helpers, and guest chef speakers for attending the first ever 6-course discourse. Thanks for making the event a success, and I hope you enjoyed the evening. Please get home safe.